The echoes of history reverberate strongly in the Horn of Africa, a region marked by enduring struggles for sovereignty, self-determination and justice. At the heart of these struggles lies Eritrea, a nation that has faced decades of political turmoil and external aggression, often dismissed by the very international community that once pledged to uphold its rights. The urgent plea from Eritrea's Foreign Minister, Osman Saleh, for a principled international response is not just a call for justice. It is a summons for a re-evaluation of collective responsibilities in safeguarding human rights and national sovereignty. Historically, Eritrea's aspirations for independence were stifled by geopolitical gamesmanship. The post-World War II era saw Eritrea federated with Ethiopia against the wishes of its people, a move justified by Western powers under the guise of strategic interests. This indifference not only undermined Eritrean self-determination, but also set a precedent for future international negligence. For decades, the plight of the Eritrean people remained largely ignored. Their calls for justice met with deafening silence, leaving them to fight the longest war in Africa's history largely unsupported. When Eritrea finally attained independence in 1993, it stood as a testament to resilience, but also as a stark reminder of the historical injustices that preceded it. Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki's reflection on the years of neglect serves as a poignant reminder of the consequences of international indifference. While Eritrea has fought staunchly for its sovereignty, the international community's continued failure to recognize the historical context and the ongoing violations against Eritrea stands in stark contrast to its moral obligations. The situation has only compounded over the years. Post-independence, Eritrea has faced renewed hostility, particularly during the 1998 to 2000 Eritrea-Ethiopia war. Despite clear international legal rulings in its favor, Eritrea's territorial sovereignty was not reaffirmed. Instead, the aggressor was rewarded. This double standard, where Eritrea was punished with sanctions while its aggressors were enabled, highlights a disturbing pattern in international relations. Instead of striving for a level playing field, the global community has often reinforced power dynamics that overlook justice and exacerbate suffering. Today, as tensions rise once again, particularly around strategic choke points like the Red Sea, the call for action is crystal clear. This moment is a critical juncture for the international community, not merely to issue platitudes, but to actively engage in a restructuring of its approach. A principled stance in support of Eritrea's sovereignty and rights, denouncing violations of international law and providing the support necessary for peace and stability, is not only a moral imperative but a necessity for lasting regional security. Justice and peace are intertwined, and true stability will only come when the injustices of the past are acknowledged and addressed. The relationship with Eritrea should not be framed by historical grievances alone, but rather by a commitment to ensure that the mistakes of the past do not persist into the future. The time for the international community to shoulder its role, to stand against aggression and uphold human rights for Eritrea and beyond, is now. Only then can a path toward genuine peace and justice be forged for all.
Is that the Eritrean people never had a decision, never had the right to decide for themselves. The UN placed them in part of Ethiopia as a confederation in 1952. And then in 1962, the emperor forced them to become a province rather than as an independent state. So that started the war. So I said, I believe they should have a referendum. I asked Meles, well, how do you feel about Eritrea becoming independent? He said, the Ethiopian people don't like that. They want Eritrea to stay as part of Ethiopia. And I said, well, can you do anything about it? He says, I'm not going to fight them, because then they'll go back to the mountains and have another. So he said, well, we'll have to live with that. But I know the Ethiopian people don't like that. In my opinion, the 1998 war was started by Meles. Because I've read you've heard of WikiLeaks?
Yes.
This was U.S. communications that were leaked.
Okay.
And I've been reading those, and it looks to me pretty sure that Meles wanted to explain to me why war. Unfortunately, there are UN sanctions against Eritrea, which I think are totally unjustified, and the presence of sanctions will make it very hard to have an agreement. In 2011, on the request of the United States, UN Security Council imposed sanctions on Eritrea. They were accused of helping Shabab in Somalia. I've talked to experts, especially in the academic world. I don't have any inside information anymore. And they say, well, we've seen possibility that they were transferring money to the Shabab. But for the last 2 or 3 years, there's absolutely no evidence that they're involved with Shabab. Zero evidence. And in October 2014, 14 of the 15 members of the Security Council voted to lift sanctions. There was only one country that refused, the United States.
The United States is pleased with the adoption today of Resolution 2023, imposing additional sanctions on Eritrea for its failure to comply with its obligations under previous Security Council resolutions, including 1907, passed 2 years ago this month. This resolution underscores the international community's condemnation of Eritrea's destabilizing behavior in the Horn and its support for terrorism.
Thank you, Chair Lady. Mr. Roman, are you aware that we are sending $40 million a week to the Taliban?
Yes, sir.
Can you name other instances of foreign aid going to terrorist organizations?
We have assisted al-Shabaab in Somalia. There's been instances of the Khamsi network in Sudan, Hamas, Islamic Jihad, Hezbollah, Kataib al-Hezbollah, Hayat al-Khud al-Shams in Syria. Dozens of terror organizations have received indirect assistance from U.S. foreign aid.